So, welcome everyone to our Canva one-on-one webinar on how to use Canva for nonprofits. We're so excited to be able to have you join us. My name is Chardy from the Vibe team here in Canva Philippines. Today, we will be learning design basics, how to create simple and beautiful designs, and how to collaborate effectively with your team and maximize Canva for nonprofit features. This session is specially dedicated for nonprofits here in the Philippines and even in the whole world. However, if you are tuning into our session from abroad, you are more than welcome to join this session as it will be conducted in English. If you have not registered yet for our Canva for nonprofits, please just head on. I will put up the link on the chat box to apply and learn more details. So let me just pull up the link and I will be posting it on the chat box right now. There you go. I'd also like to introduce to you our speaker for today, who is one of our colleagues here in Canva Philippines. We have here Pat Santos. Pat is our
Hello.
content specialist here at Canva Philippines. She writes support articles to educate millions of Canva users across the globe on how to use the design platform and provide self-service support. Combining her design background and support experience, she's happy to share her knowledge and skills in designing with Canva. If you have any questions throughout the webinar today, feel free to pop them in the Q&A portion so some of my colleagues from our community team can respond to your questions. If we have time left at the end of today's session, Pat and us will respond to some of your questions live. So without further ado, let's welcome Pat Santos.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining into our webinar, which is all about Canva 101, how to use Canva for nonprofits. And I am Pat, and as Chardy have introduced me, I am one of the content specialists here in Canva, and I write. I'm one of the people who write the help articles that you read on the support center or help center. So, without any further ado, let's get started. But first off, once again, thank you so much for joining in. And we are holding this Design for Change Week, and this is all about to empower the world to design. And just a quick note, we're being recorded, and we'll publish recordings to our nonprofits page on canva.com/Canva for nonprofits. And as Charlie also have mentioned, we've been inundated with a lot of Canva love, and thank you so much for being here again. And there will be a Q&A session at the end if time permits, but do feel free to leave a question in the Q&A chat box, and we'll see if me or Charlie or any one of my colleagues can answer it live. And please feel free to join in our community on Facebook. Just search in the Facebook search bar, Canva Nonprofits Community, and then join in. So to give you a quick rundown on what I'll be discussing with you tonight is an introduction to Canva, using or familiarizing yourself with the Canva editor, and some design basics, because of course, aside from us wanting you to be able to for you to be able to create your designs on Canva, we'd also love if you could design them to the best of your abilities. So, an intro to Canva. What is Canva? Canva is an online design tool that enables you to easily create beautiful and engaging designs with thousands of templates to choose from. And Canva was created as a response from the usual way of creating design, which is usually complex. So prior to Canva, prior to this, the design process is a very complex one. Like, for example, you need to purchase some software first, like from Adobe Photoshop, and you also need to study design. You have to purchase and download stock photos from a separate site. You also need to purchase fonts from a separate site. And sometimes you also need to purchase layouts or templates from a different site. And you even have to edit each image separately on an editing software. And then you wait for the design. And it's basically a very long process before you're able to upload your designs and print it out or upload it on social media or for whatever purpose that you may need. But that's why we have Canva, and we've made it much simple and much more integrated. So because it's much more simple, you can now collaborate online. You now have one-click access to a lot of Pro Tools. You can access a library of 3 million images. You don't need to go out from Canva itself or go to a separate stock photo site just to get your images. And you can easily export your designs to social media networks or save it as a PDF or PNG. So basically, publish anything and publish anywhere. And just to show you some differences that you get from having a nonprofit account. So on the left you have here we have the standard free Canva account, and as a nonprofit account, it's basically a premium version of Canva made available for you for free. So that's around 60K plus templates, 2 million plus images, 800,000 icons and illustrations, 700 fonts, access from Google Drive and Dropbox and other folders, and a lot of other things that I'll be sharing with you in a short while within this webinar. And this is basically to empower every nonprofit to design. And just to give you a quick rundown as well on what are the nonprofit features that you get. So it's over 60,000 templates that you can use. Free unlimited content. So there are like millions of images and illustrations and videos. You don't need to go out to or search on Google Images, for example. So you can just search inside our library, and we hope that the images you need are there. We also have 700 plus free premium fonts, all to unleash your creativity and depending on the purpose of your design. And this is, I think, you would find very useful is the collaboration space that you can use. So this means that you can add comments to your design, have simultaneous collaboration wherein 2 or more people can work on the same design at the same time. Isn't that cool? And now that we have given you a little bit of a preview of what you're getting with a nonprofit account, now I think it's time for you to familiarize yourself into using the Canva editor. But before that, let me show you the homepage. So the homepage is the first screen that you see upon login. So for example, if you haven't created an account yet on Canva, we do so encourage you to create one, and it's for free. So you can go to canva.com and then sign up for a free account if you'd like to try things out before applying for a nonprofit account. And then after creating your account, this should be the first screen or first page that you see, which is the homepage. So to give you a sort of a navigate around the homepage, let me get out from my presentation mode and let me show you the home screen live. So this is again the home screen, and it has several parts. So we have here the side panel, the search bar, and the available templates that you can use. So we'll get back to the available templates, because one way to get into the editor is just click on the available templates or the design types that we have, and it will instantly open the editor. But before we get into that, let me just show you some of the features that we have on the homepage. So all your designs contains the designs that you've already created or you've already done. Recent designs are some of the designs you've recently opened. Brand kit. So brand kit, this is something that I will discuss more as we go along. But brand kit is basically where you upload your brand assets like logos, colors, and fonts. But we'll get back to that later. Folders is where you find all of the folders that you have for organization of your designs. Trash is a bit self-explanatory. So this is where you see designs that you've already deleted. And perhaps this is also one of the most useful things that you would also see on the homepage is the teams page. So to access your team, you have to click it here from the side panel, and the team page would first show the designs that your team has created or has shared for everyone to use. So if I am a member and if I want to create a design using the existing templates that I'll be at the existing templates that have been uploaded, I can just go here and just click and then just use it for my design. Folders, this is where you find the shared folders for the teams. Also templates. And then this is where you add your fellow team members, but I'll also get back to that in a short while. And then groups is if you want to create certain smaller groups within your team, so it's much more easier to share your designs or your images or things to a smaller group of people in your team. So now that we have seen a bit of the homepage, now let's get back to how do you get into the editor from the homepage. So let me just go back there on the recommended for you. So as I've said, there are two ways. So you can click on this one, create a design, and then select from the existing design types that we have. You can also search for one. So for example, if you want to create a poster, it will just load, and then it will show the available types of posters that we have. And to open the editor, just click on it. So there, now that you have opened the editor, now it's time to get familiarized on the editor itself. So like the homepage, there are like three main parts. The side panel, and this is where a lot of the magic comes from. Like this is also where you access our library. This is the menu bar, and this is the canvas. So now that we familiarize ourselves with the Canva editor, let me now get back to my presentation. So to make this webinar much more engaging, I thought to demonstrate it live, the things that you can do here inside the editor. So let's start with adding a text box. So the easiest way to add a text box is by simply pressing T on your keyboard. And there you can see that a text box has been added. And to edit the text box that has just been added, you just highlight the text inside, delete the existing ones, and then let's type in something. So let's say, hello there. And there. So as you can see, the text is quite small. So if you'd like to resize the text, you can just click on the text box and then go here on this menu bar, change the size in here, and there you go. And from this menu bar, you can also change the font. So to change the font, you click here. And then choose from the hundreds of fonts that we have. We can also try searching for fonts. So let's try cute, for example, or cursive, or there's no, oh, there we go. And that instantly changes your text or your font. To change color, you have to click on this icon. Select either from the existing document colors or from the brand colors if you already have a brand kit set up. And there you go. And if you, oh, by the way, if you also want to add a new color, which is not part of the existing document colors, you can click on the rainbow tile and then drag around to select the color that you want to use. So next up is using the text tab. So aside from adding text using by pressing T on your keyboard, you can add text using the text tab from the side panel. So just click on it. And there you would see the available preset font combinations, or click on any of these, add a heading, subheading, or a little bit of body text to add a new text box. And also, if you want to use font combinations, you can browse through these available options, choose one, just click on it, and that will instantly place that font combination text box into the editor. So this one actually is a existing font combination that we previously added, and you can just easily edit it as we go. So hello there again. And the thing here, the good thing here with Canva is that you just basically need to drag things around if you want to move them, or if you want to resize a text box, you can just make sure to click on it and then drag around the resize handles to instantly resize your text. So now that we've talked about the text tab, it's time to add some shapes. So similarly to adding text using T on the keyboard, you can also instantly add shapes into your design by pressing these letters on your keyboard. So let's add a line by pressing on L. Drag it there. You can add a rectangle by pressing R. And as it has covered our page, so let's just resize it. And then add a circle by pressing C. Then resize it again. And the cool thing about adding these elements and adding these shapes, that you can also change their color. More on the color later, but for now, let's just leave these shapes be. Or maybe we can just change another one. So you can instantly change the color by clicking on an element and then clicking on the color tile and then choosing the new color. So aside from shapes, you can also add elements. So elements are mostly illustrations or icons or photos. Technically, shapes are also elements. So to add your own elements, you can head over to the Elements tab in here. Browse through the available categories, or just user search. So let's try adding an element here. So I have here, put in an illustration of your favorite animal. So my favorite animal is a penguin, and I think you can see here that a penguin has been added, but let's just demonstrate that for now. Then hit search, and then all the available elements that show penguin will show up here. And then to add one, just click on it. Then resize it so it fits here. And there we go. We have a penguin illustration on our page. And another, one of the cool elements we also have are stickers. So stickers are moving elements or moving illustrations that when you save your design as a video or a GIF and you upload it online or on social media, your design is moving. So to add a sticker, simply go back to the Elements tab, scroll down a little bit, and you'll see the sticker category. Click on See All. Browse through the available subcategories of stickers. So let's choose something for social media, for example. Click on See All to all the available options. and just click and drag into your design. But of course, illustrations, icons, or vectors are not the only types of elements that you can add. So for photos, you can head over to the Photos tab in here. Once again, see the available categories that we have. You can also click on these if you want, or you can use search. So for example, a photo of your favorite place. So my favorite place, for example, is the beach. And then it would show all of the available beach images that we have in their library. So just browse them all, or if you have something more specific, you can refine your search and just click and to add it to your page. Resize it a bit. But of course, we also understand that there may be times wherein you need to upload or use your own photos, and this is where the Uploads tab comes in handy. So just click on the Uploads tab, click on the Upload an image or video, choose from your files. So let's just choose this pineapple, for example. Open it up and wait until it uploads successfully. And let's just wait for a bit. Progress bar is still loading. Oh, there we go. And it's done. And to place your uploaded or your own photo, you can just click on it, and then it will get placed on the design instantly. There. So as I've briefly mentioned, upon adding certain elements into your design, you can change the colors. Like most of our elements, like the ones that you see here on this tab, most of them are recolorable, or you can freely change the color of the elements to suit your needs. So to change the color again, you just click on the element that you'd like to customize. Select these color tiles to change it per section. So let's just change it here and click on that. And then you'll see there that's the corresponding section that the color tile is changing. So let's just change it back there. So here. No, that doesn't look too nice. But yeah, there we go. And there are also elements that only have one color, so that's much more easier to change their colors. So click on those, or let's choose another color. So let's choose, let's say, orange. That's there. And then last element to change is this one. Let's change. Oh, that doesn't. And this one. Oh, okay, green. So another cool thing about with changing colors that you can really play around and really customize your elements and make it as if it's your own. So next up on our Canva editor basics is the grouping and locking of elements. So this is particularly useful when you're working on several elements at the same time. And if you want to move around or resize elements at the same time without going into each and every element and resize them manually. So to group your elements, simply just drag your mouse cursor over the elements that you want to group together. Press on group here. And that will instantly group your elements. And you can see here that you can move it around. And then if you want, you can resize it this way. And all of the elements that you group would be would be instantly resized or instantly moved around. Now, for locking elements, this is also useful when you are when several people are working at the design at the same time. So that's simultaneous collaboration, and you don't want anyone else to change or move around your design. So to lock your design, lock your elements. I just click on this icon, the padlock icon from the status bar, and that will lock your element. And if you see here, I'm trying to drag these elements around, and it's not budging, it's not moving. And the only person who, and then to move them around, you can just simply unlock them again. There. Next up is charts. So you don't need to, if you want to insert a very like a chart or a graph showing some progress or some statistics, you can easily do that here inside of Canva as well. So to add in charts, you go back to the Elements tab, scroll down a bit, and you'll see the charts category. Click on See All and see the available chart designs that we have. So we have bar charts, we have line charts, and we have pie charts. And then to add one, just click on it. And to edit the data, you would see here on the left side some items. So let's put in, let's say, a chart about fruits. So let's put in some apples, sorry. Then change the number if you know the number at hand. Oranges. So let's say 50 oranges. Bananas. Let's keep it at 10. Then another fruit like cherries. Then let's keep it at 40. And if you don't need more items, you can just easily delete these, and the chart will instantly adapt to the number of items that it has. But if you also have existing data from a separate spreadsheet, you can simply copy in the data from the spreadsheet and then paste it here. And to edit your chart or customize your chart, as with any other element, you can click on the color tile to change the colors. So here, or if you want, you can put it to red. And then if you want to change the font size of the labels here, you can change it here. Make it bigger or make it smaller. Change the color of the text also in here, and let's just choose one of these. And then this is where you, if you want it to be bold or italicized. Okay, so next on the agenda is our grids and frames. So grids and frames make placing photos in your design much easier to add a bit more flair into placing or adding photos into your design. And to access them, it's also in here in the Elements tab. Scroll up a bit. You can see here the grid. So let's place a grid here first. Click on See All. Browse through the available grid options that we have. So, but for this purposes, let's just put a grid for 3 images. And you can see here that if you place a grid, it will fill up the whole page, but don't worry about that. You can easily resize them. And now, since it's behind the rectangle where we want, or the shape where we want to put it over, bring it forward by clicking the grid, and then on position, and then click on forward. And let's resize it again so it fits our shape. That's how you place a grid. Now for frames, Once again, you go back to the Elements tab here. Go here to the subcategory of frames and click on See All. Select from the available frames we have, and as you can see, frames have more like more fun or have more shapes available compared to grids. So feel free to add whatever is needed or whatever suits your taste or preferences in your design. So for example, let's just place this circle, resize it, and then place it here. Now you may ask, how do you place images inside a grid or frame? So that this is so I'm going to show you how this time. So to place a photo, you can either go back to the Photos tab, search for the available photos that we have, or if we are already in the right category, the beach photos, you can just browse through them. And instead of just clicking it to place it on your design, you can drag the photo over the spot where you want it to be placed. So just a second. There we go. So make sure that you hover your mouse cursor over the right space so it goes into the right frame or grid. So let's add another one. So let's just drag it there. And then, then another one there. And it's the same mechanic for the frames. So for this time, let's say you have your own photos. You can for this example, you can just head over to uploads, use your own photos, and drag it onto the frame that you want to use it for. All right, let's just wait for it to load completely. Yep, there we go. And to customize or change the photos inside, you can either change the filter. So you make sure you click on the grid or the frame that you want the image or the photo to be edited, and click on filter, and you can add any of these available filters instantly. You can also adjust the filter if you'd like, or adjust the crop of the image or photo inside the frame. So just drag it there and make it like zoomed in a bit. And there you have it for the grids and frames. And another nifty feature that is exclusively available for pro or for nonprofit accounts is the usage of the background remover. So the background remover instantly removes the background of an existing photo. So you can use your uploaded photos, or you can use photos that you see or you get from our library. And to access that, or to remove the background instantly, just have to click on the image, click on Effects, select Background Remover, and let's wait for it a bit to work. So let's wait for the magic to work. And loading. There we go. So no need anymore to go to a separate program to instantly slice or remove the background of your photos from a different program. So you can just use it, or you can just use the background remover and do it here inside of Canva. It's actually one of my favorite features available because it saves a lot of time. And the next up is the transparent background. So transparent backgrounds is particularly useful when you save a logo or an icon wherein you don't want the background. So for example, this one on the left, you don't want the background of the image to be seen Because normally when you save photos or images as, let's say, JPEG or PNG, um, the backgrounds get selected, and if you upload it here on Canva, it will come up as this one. So to quickly demonstrate on how to save a design with transparent background, let me go here to a different design. Let's just add in some icons or some elements. So let's use some of these, for example, and then add it there. So if you just save this normally as you would, especially for free users, you won't. This photo would, this design would save in its entirety, like this square or rectangle background with white. But you can save it with a transparent background by clicking here, making sure you select PNG image, and make sure that you tick on this one, the transparent background, and then you download. So let me just go back here. And as you can see here, if I move this uploaded logo with a transparent background around, see here? So so there's really no background, and you can just place it there and instantly use it for designs. Or alternatively, if you want, you can also use here the background remover, but we highly suggest that if you already created your design on Canva with having an intention of saving a transparent background, we suggest that you save it using the transparent background feature here in Canva itself. And yet another feature that is exclusively available for pro or nonprofit accounts is magic resize, or this is what we call like instantly resizing your design into a different size. Because normally, if you'd like to normally for a standard or free account, you won't be able to instantly resize your designs, and most of the time you just need to recreate it on a different size. So to demonstrate that, let's go back here into our sample design. Just delete that element. Let's select a template. So for here, recently used this poster. And if you want to instantly resize it, let's say to a Instagram post or a Facebook post, you just click on the resize here from the menu bar. Select the size, the new size which you want to resize your design into. You can also input some custom dimensions here, but for your purposes, you can just use Instagram post here, and then click on resize. And your design would instantly get resized to the square dimensions that fits the Instagram design or Instagram dimensions. Get back here again. And then next one, as promised, I'm discussing more in detail about teams. And as mentioned, when I was showing you around the homepage, you have the ability to add in members or three types of members into your team, which includes administrators, template designers, and members. So these three roles have different in a way functions, and they can access they cannot access certain features inside the Canva editor or inside Canva itself. So for example, an administrator, it's basically the main admin. So if you're the first person who created a team, you're automatically an admin. And if you want someone else to share the admin responsibilities of being able to control, let's say, the billing, or control each and every aspect of the team inside of Canva, then I would suggest that you add a fellow administrator. But if you want to just add someone who would help you create designs for everyone in your team or organization to be able to use, you can add them as template designers. So the template designers have the ability to create designs or create templates and make them available for the whole team to use. And the members are just have the most basic access features, but it doesn't mean that they can't do anything else. It means that they can also create designs on their own. They can share designs to fellow team members as well, and basically just contribute to the full collaboration experience here. And then next feature, which is also very useful if you have team members or have several people working on your design, again, is the version history. So the version history is when, for example, a member has made edits on a design and you would like to bring back the old version. So this is where it comes where it becomes convenient. And to access version history, you can click on File and then click on Version History here. And it would show all of the available save options or save files that we have. And just select, let's say, one of them. And let's just wait for it to load. And ideally, when you select a version, you will see here a button which says restore to previous version. But since some magic is still loading, and I maybe have to close it now. But you'll be able to find this in the file menu. Just wait. And then last but not least in our basics, in our Canva editor basics, is the brand kit. So the brand kit is also accessible from the homepage, and this is specifically important if you already have existing brand assets or features that will that really promote or bring forward your brand as an organization or as a team. So if you already have logos, you can upload logos here on the brand kit page. And if we have certain colors that you only need to use, so let's say you want to make sure that your designs follow the colors of the logo, you can add it there in the brand color section. And if you have specific fonts that you only want to use, you can also set it here. So more, this is actually just a brief overview because my colleague on her next webinar would talk more about the brand kit and making sure that your designs are on brand. So please stay tuned to that next webinar to learn more about the brand kit. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the first part or first half of our webinar. So the first half was to talk about the features of Canva and helping you familiarize using Canva and the editor and make use of our library, our canvas, our different templates that we have. And now it's time to talk about more about design itself. So what is a design? A design is a plan or drawing produced to show the look and function of or workings of objects before it is built or made. It often has goals, constraints. It's very process driven, and it aims to solve some problems. And there are different types of design. So there's industrial design, fashion design, software design, game design, and what we are very interested in is with graphic design. Now, normally when I hold this workshop or webinar in front of a live audience, I tend to ask them, um, what is or what do you think is the difference of art and graphic design? So if you want, you can answer them inside the Q&A and we'll read through them if you want to. But for me at least, art has a more aesthetic um, appeal. It doesn't have, let's say, a goal. Well, it does have a goal depending on the artist, but it's not meant to solve something. And this is where graphic design becomes different, is because unlike art, it's more process driven, it's visual communication, and like I've said, it aims to solve a problem, or it aims to bring forward a message and have it come across a lot of people. So, in short, graphic design is creative communication. So, it doesn't have to be just plain letters or just plain, like, for example, you print out on a sheet of paper that say, please don't use the faucet or please don't use the sink. And graphic design is way more than just conveying a message, but it also has a creative aspect of it. And what makes or what composes a good design or a good piece of graphic design? So these are four elements that compose it: the color, text, imagery, and layout. So I'll go to each and every one of these elements, and then hopefully and then I will give you tips on how to use them to the best that you can. So let's first start with colors. So color is one of the most important things, I would say, or one of the most basic things that you can think of, or you can take into consideration when making a design, because colors tend to have a certain impact just by seeing them. And when I say impact, you would see in my next slides, you would see what I mean when it comes to impact or recall. Because, for example, if I show you this, what brand comes in mind? So these are the colors that compose of the FedEx logo. So there and then, I didn't even have to show the logo, but since the colors have been long associated with FedEx, even if you just show the colors, FedEx comes to mind. And then this one. So aside from just solid colors, you can also have gradients, and this gradient, this yellow to pink and purple gradient, is associated with Instagram. So that's what I meant with colors having powers or having messages, is that even if you just see it, you already have something in mind. And to help you choose which color you think is best to represent your brand, your design, or your organization, here are some of the most common colors and their most commonly associated messages. So, for example, if you want your design to have a bit of a powerful message, I would suggest using red. If you want something that's a bit more cool and pleasing to the eyes, you can use greens or blues or purples. And if you want something that would cheer you up a bit or make you feel happy, you can use orange or yellow. And not only does color help with conveying emotions or having a certain brand recall, but it can also highly provide contrast into your design. So see here on this slide, on the left, it shows here a design that looks nice, but it's a bit unreadable and a little bit glaring on the eyes because of the color choices. But if you use something like more muted or more cool to the eyes, like say blues and dark blues, it helps the message or the imagery pop up. So this is providing more contrast, so your message comes across. Because um, design needs, more than anything else, design needs to be understandable by a lot of other people. So sometimes I say to some people, like, it looks cute, it looks like, for example, if you make a design, graphic design, I'm not saying art, um, and you would say it looks nice, but a lot of the things, a lot of the messages inside the design are not readable, then I would give suggestions to change the design a little bit. So this is one of those. So it doesn't mean that I don't like greens and yellows, but there could be a way to make it much more readable by using perhaps a different shade of green, or for example, this one, by using a different color, which is much more cooling, which has a more cooling effect to the eyes. But if you're in doubt and if you're not very confident in mixing and matching colors yet, please feel free to head over to canva.com/colors. And we have there a color palette generator wherein you can, if you want to use colors from a photo that you have, or existing photos you see on the internet, you can upload it, and it would and our color palette generator would automatically generate a set of colors that you can use in the designs. We also have color palette ideas in there. Learn more about the color wheel. So if you want to learn a little bit of color theory, and the color meanings are also up there. So that's the ones that I've shown in my previous slides. It's also up there. So now that we've talked about color, let's talk about type or fonts. Perhaps the most common question is what's the difference between a serif or sans serif? So there are different types of fonts. And the most common types of fonts are serif fonts and sans serif fonts. And you may ask, what is the difference? So serif fonts normally have these red these tails in here, so you can see them in red. And they are mostly used for print. And when you use a serif font, it conveys a more classic or traditional look to your design. While sans serif, it's much cleaner and much more modern and more common in digitals. For example, you will you will commonly see serif fonts on, let's say, a newspaper or an old book, while you will mostly see sans serif fonts in your, let's say, social media or computer, or the web pages that you view. Although an exception there is if you've customized, let's say you're viewing it mobile and you have like customizations on, then I don't think you would be using sans serif fonts. So and also to briefly just touch upon on the other types of fonts, there are also the decorative fonts. So those are mostly the handwriting fonts or the cursive fonts. And for the purposes of creating an effective design, I would, or if you're just starting out creating your design, I would suggest sticking with serif fonts and sans serif fonts first, before you can before you can try customizing it a bit or spicing it up a bit with a cursive font. Because for me, what's more important is for your text to be readable, because there are some handwriting fonts or cursive fonts that are not easily readable, especially if you view it from afar. And next is, you may ask, what are tips to pairing fonts? Because sometimes pairing fonts can be a daunting experience. and you don't know where to start. So the best place to start is to stick first with one main font family. So what is a font family? A font family is a set of font variations inside the same font. So you would know if it's the same font family if they have a common name in them. So you would see here, for example, the font family is Open Sans, but the Open Sans has three different versions, which has the light, the regular, and the extra bold. So if you see these fonts, all of these fonts, by the way, are available inside of Canva. So please feel free to use them when creating your own designs. And you would know that you would know if they're the same family because of the same names, and and you would and it's a foolproof. It's almost a foolproof design tip to combine um, fonts from the same variation or same family. So if you want your title to be Open Sans extra bold, then feel free to use it. And then for your body text, you can use Open Sans there. And if you want to go a little bit more extra or a little bit extra mile, so let's say you're more confident into pairing fonts from the same family, you can now start pairing using different font families altogether or different looks. So actually, fonts have their own personalities. So you can use that. You can see them by just looking at the font itself, or sometimes at the name. So, for example, this one, in this first example, we used here Clear Sans and Abril Fat Face. So from here, you can see it's a bit. It has a bit of a reserved um, look. So that's why we call it extroverted. Whereas Abril Fat Face, it's a bit louder, a bit more there because of some of the thick strokes that we use here in the font. Or you can also use here a neutral font like Clear Sans again, and a bit more personality with Lobster, which is a bit of a fancy cursive font. You can also go with short and tall. So you see here Josephine, and then compared to Six Caps, which is a whole lot taller than Josephine. And then in here is a bit similar here to the example used by Clear Sans plus Lobster. So we also have here Source Sans plus Berkshire Swash. So feel free to mix and match different fonts depending on what you feel is their personality, and more often than not, it can give a little bit of it would spice up your design a little bit by using a different type of font. And the most foolproof, again, if not using fonts from the same font family, is by using a sans serif and a serif together. So for example, here are some examples using um, the different combinations. So in here, I used here a more neutral font, and then here it's a bit more expressive, then thick and thin. And then this one, again, the most foolproof combination is a serif and a sans serif. But we also understand that pairing up fonts together may be might get a little while to get used to. So if you're not yet super confident in combining fonts together, we would suggest that you use the font combinations as I've shown you on my previous slide, wherein you click on text from the side panel, select from the existing font combinations that we have there, and then just place it on your design and feel free to customize it as needed. Most of the designs, or actually all the font combinations that we have in the text panel should have those guidelines on which fonts look best when paired up together. Up next is the use of imagery and graphics. So aside from making sure um, that your design has great colors, uses great fonts or great text, it's also very important that design shows, don't just tell. So this is where the use of images and graphics come in very handy. So for example here, this is an example of a design which has a good use of, it has a good shade of green, uses good combination of fonts. So you have here somewhere like a sans serif font, but but it looks kind of it seems that there's something lacking in it. And to drive your message across, so for example, in this one, it's talking about the health benefits of watermelon. Why don't you insert an image of a watermelon? So there we go. There's a stark difference here. So that's just plain text, and sometimes people won't read it, like be that too long, don't read, or because they think that it's too text heavy. Now, to help them and to aid them into reading your text, this is where putting images come in very handy. And it's not just putting photos inside the design. You can also place other elements or shapes. So again, you can access photos using the Photos tab on the side panel editor, elements from the Elements tab, also from the editor. You can also use charts. Still still the same for the from the Elements tab. And you can also use icons. So for me, this is much more easier to read compared to this one, which just shows text. But this one, because of the use of imagery, it helps your message come across much more clear. And another thing to take note for the use of images, so is to see if the image you need to use have some clear space or negative space. So also understand that there may be times that you need to use certain photos taken by, let's say, some photographers or existing photos, let's say, of members from the organization, and it needs to be used for designs like posters or for social media, and you want to put some text in it. Um, it's all good. It's great to use your own photos, but to make sure that your message or your text is readable, identify where the clear space of each photo that you need to use are, and that's where you place the text. Because if for example, you place a text, like for this example, if you place the call for volunteers text on the bottom and you still use the black font or black text, it won't be as readable. Whereas if you put the text inside a clear space or a negative space, it becomes much more clear or much more readable. So you can see here some examples. So you can see here that I put this here on this area because it has that's where the clear space is. And here in the middle, here in the top, and here in the side. But of course, there are also times wherein there is really no clear space or negative space inside the photos or images that you'd like to use. So you can add your own clear space, and you can do that by adding contrast for the text. So here are some ways or some tips. So you can either place a filter or a rectangle on top of the photo that you need to use. Just set the transparency a little bit to less than 100, and then that's where you place the text. Or you can also place a shape or a rectangle behind the text. Or in this case, you put it below the image, or use a frame and then just add a plain solid background and your text at the bottom. So frames are also, once again, available from the Elements tab from the editor. But of course, so now we have talked about the colors, text or font. and then images. The last part or the last element of design I'm going to talk about is layout, because consistency is also very important. And layout for me is also one of the most important most important things about graphic design, is because this is where all of the three elements come together. So it's this is where the colors, this is where the text, and this is where the images come together. So to talk more about layout, let's first talk about hierarchy. So hierarchy is where hierarchy leads the eye and creates focus. So in graphic design, you also have to take note of the things you put inside your design. And typically in the hierarchy, what is normally the largest or the brightest is the first one that people will read. So, and for this example, you will read this first, this heading, because it's the one that's biggest, and then you will read this that is much smaller, and then this one, the third, and you will read this last. So, so before you create your design, you also need to think what is the most important thing, or what do you want the readers or people who see your design to see or read first. So you first have to determine that. And once you've determined that, here are some ways to add more hierarchy or to add more emphasis to the message or to the point that you want readers to read first. So you can either change the weight. So here it's bolded out. You can also change the color. So for example, if you're using a dark background, use a bright color to make that part stand out. You can also you can also change the size. So what's bigger is what the one that stands out the more. The Or you can use the three of them. So if you want for maximum impact or um, maximum emphasis on the message that you'd like to convey, you make sure that it's bolded out, you make sure it has a different color, and you make sure that it's really big. And please also take note that this is not only applicable for text, but it's also applicable for images or the other elements inside your design. So this is a concrete example of hierarchy inside a poster. So the heading is this one. So learn about triangles. This is the largest, and at first glance, it's the first thing that you see. And from this poster, it's the main message of this poster or design. Subheading is the second largest, so it normally details or supports the heading that you've used, and the body is the smallest. So but you may ask, what's the point of putting small text? Does it mean that it's less important? Not really, because in our current for example, if you go to social media, you see a lot of images. You see a lot of um, designs up there, and of course you want people to look at your design first, so you want to grab their attention first before they start reading on the further details, and that's where hierarchy comes in handy. But once again, of course, we also understand that like with font pairings, hierarchy also takes a while to get used to. And this is where our templates, our hundreds and thousands of templates and layouts, which you can use and access from our editor, come in handy. So if you are super not yet confident, feel free to just browse the available templates that we have in our library. Choose one that really that you think is will be usable for your purposes, and just change the text or change the images as you go along. And that actually brings us to the end of our webinar. And as our CEO said, CEO would say, we're really only just 1% of the way there. So once again, thank you so much for joining us here in our webinar. And I really hope that you were able to at least get something and from this. And we hope to see more of your designs. And I think we have some time for some Q&A, right? So let me try reading some of those. All right. So what questions do we have? Uh-huh. Uh, hmm, where can So let's answer some of. Oh, what makes a bad design? Let me answer this. So thank you so much for that question. What makes a bad design? For me, what makes a bad design is when, let's say, the colors are really not good together. So I think, for example, the example that I used in the contrast example is, and it can be an example of a bad design wherein the design is just unreadable, or when certain font choices are made. So, for example, if we use a very decorative design that aims, let's say, let's say you created a poster, and then you use a lot of the fancy fonts, and a lot of people won't be able to read them. I think that also constitutes as a bad design. Or when you create something and then your audience doesn't understand exactly what you want them to understand. So, for example, if you're making a poster that is, let's say, a call for volunteers, but let's say the images that you use are so not consistent with the volunteer theme, or the text is too small, it doesn't have the complete details where you can register for volunteering, then I think that kind of constitutes as a bad design. Okay. I think we can still answer some. Just um, mixing fonts. Okay. Let me answer this question as well. So, how many kinds of fonts should we use in one design? So, once again, thank you, Elizabeth Sugito, for asking that. I would suggest this, although this is more of a personal preference. I would suggest combining, like using a maximum of 2 to 3 fonts, but this does not include the font family. So the font family that I've mentioned a while ago is when there are certain fonts that belong to the same with the same name. So for me, that's one font already, and then you add one more to add a little bit more emphasis. So for me, designs with more than 3 fonts, they're not necessarily bad, because there are also some amazing graphic designers who can really combine several fonts in one design. But for let's say basic purposes, I would suggest just sticking to 2 to 3 maximum fonts in one design.
A
Okay.
nice question and a nice answer. Thank you very much, Pat, for that incredibly insightful session. And for your questions as well. Thank you very much, guys. So we hope that today's webinar has been helpful for you Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Hope to see you again soon.